Then on Sports Central, we go over our next team prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be over the Oregon Ducks, one of the true dark horse teams of the 2022 season. This team went 10-3 overall, and they very much were a contender for the majority of the season. But how this team be in 2023 and whether or not Oregon could be even better in the 2023 season is what we'll be talking about here today. We'll be analyzing this team and predict their schedule game by game in this video. Let's get started with a quick recap of 2022. Once again, this team was 10-3 overall. Had a brutal loss in week 1 to Georgia. They lost the game 49-3. And after that game, a lot of people ruled out Oregon. I mean, it was just an ugly loss, and rightfully so. But, I mean, this team went on an 8-game winning streak after that loss. This team was 8-1 heading into mid-November, and they were very much a college football playoff contender after that Colorado win on November 5th. But you look at this team's turnaround after that Georgia loss. They lost to Georgia 49-3, came back the next week, beat Eastern Washington 70-14, had a dominant win over BYU, which BYU at that point in the season actually was considered to be a solid team. So for them to beat BYU 41-20 was definitely impressive. And I mean, after week 3, no one really knew what to think about Oregon, considering this team had 2 excellent wins after a terrible loss to Georgia. But they beat Washington State, beat Stanford, beat Arizona. After their bye week, came back, beat a good UCLA team 45-30, took care of Cal on the road, and beat Colorado 49-10. Then the Washington game came around. Washington, a solid team last season. They really turned it on towards the end, and Washington did beat Oregon there 37-34. But for Oregon, good thing is they beat Utah the next week, a huge win there, 20-17. Then lost to Oregon State 38-34, which that was really a game where Oregon just did not have much business losing it. Oregon State had to storm back into that game, and they stole a win off of Oregon there, and the Ducks finished out the regular season with a 9-3 record. So yeah, 2 losses in the last 3 games of the regular season, kind of disappointing, but at least finished out the season on a high note with a great win against North Carolina in the Holiday Bowl, 20-27 being the final. North Carolina, a solid team last season. You can expect them to be a contender in 2023, and honestly, same for Oregon. That was an outstanding matchup between 2 teams that definitely I've got high expectations as we look forward to 2023. But looking forward to 2023, now your roster preview heading into the season. Bo Nix is coming back, and that is a huge storyline. That's a big reason why this team is considered widely as a potential contender. Bo Nix made some huge strides in 2022, nearly 3,600 pass yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a 72% completion rate. He was, at Auburn, he was the primary starter for 3 seasons from 2019 to 2021, and he just really stayed the same, really didn't improve over those 3 seasons. There were some high expectations for him after the 2019 season, but he just really did not improve too much. So transferring to Oregon, I think, was a great decision for him. He also rushed for over 500 yards on the season and an additional 15 touchdowns. So, Bo Nix is a playmaker, and he is definitely one to keep an eye on. The backfield looks great. Bucky Irvin's coming back. Same with Noah Whittington. Bucky Irving last season, over 1,300 total yards and 8 touchdowns. The receiving core, you return Troy Franklin and Chris Hudson, 2 of your top 3. You do lose Chase Cota, your second wideout, but at least you got your top tight end coming back as well, and Terrence Ferguson. So good depth in the receiving core, really not too concerned. You lose 3 on the offensive line, 1 defensive lineman, and 2 linebackers, along with 2 in the secondary. So defensively, you lose 5 of your starters, which is a moderate amount. There is some good depth, though. The recruiting's been fairly good. So for Oregon, really not too concerned. The offensive line maybe could be a bit of a question mark. But as far as skill players go, this team has got tremendous talent. Between Bo Nix, the backfield, the receiving core, everything looks really good. This is a team with depth and huge potential. You consider the Pac-12, this is definitely one of the most talented teams in the conference, and you can just consider how insane of a conference it is. Last season you had 6 solid teams at the top. You really never knew who was the top team in the conference. USC was up there, and Oregon at times was looking like the best. You had 6 solid teams in the conference last season, but those 6 teams at the top just ate each other alive. You consider, they all had really good records, but the problem was not even one of those teams got in the college football playoff. It's just a wild conference considering that. So we'll see if we can find a more dominant, just one specific dominant team that can make a run for the college football playoff I mean, USC would have been in last season if they could have won the Pac-12 title game, so teams were close, just couldn't quite get there. But are the Ducks a true national contender in 2023? I think so. This team is, I mean, they do maybe have a challenging schedule at times, but I do think Oregon is, I mean, if there's anyone in the Pac-12, I mean, USC is definitely up there. Oregon is as well. I'd say Washington, can't forget about them. I mean, I do think UCLA falls off a bit. It's an interesting conference. You got still a lot of solid teams. I mean, you also can't even sleep on Utah. They still got great returning production. So we'll see what happens, but I do think the Ducks are definitely a contender. Looking forward to your transfer portal and recruiting now. So Jay Barterfield, quarterback, is off to San Jose State, but obviously Bo Nix, it's his job. Sean Dollars is off to Nevada. Byron Cardwell is off to Cal. So you do lose a couple of the running backs, but your top two are coming back, so I'm not too concerned there either. Trayshawn Holden's coming in from Alabama, receiver. You also bring in Tez Johnson. Keep an eye on him. He's already listed as a wide receiver 1 on the depth chart. And then Dante Thornton is off to Tennessee, receiver there. But at least you bring in Holden and Johnson. Johnny Cornelius, offensive tackle, is coming in from Rhode Island. Junior Angelau is coming in as well from Texas, offensive line there. Edge rusher Jordan Birch coming in from South Carolina. You lose Braden Swinson to LSU. Linebacker Justin Flo is off to Arizona. And you bring in Justin Jacobs from Iowa. Connor Sowell is coming in, linebacker from Arizona State. You lose Jackson LeDuc and Keith Brown. Defensive back Kyrie Jackson is coming in from Alabama. Tysheem Johnson coming in from Ole Miss. And then Evan Williams is coming in from Fresno State. So, I mean, Oregon has been very active in the transfer portal this offseason. And for the most part, this team has added some significant talent, definitely some key players from the transfer portal. So, yeah, keep an eye on the Ducks. Recruiting-wise, 9th in the nation, 2nd in the Pac-12. They got 2 5-stars coming in, 18 4-stars, so recruiting looks really good. The transfer portal generally looks really good, and I've got this team at a 9 out of 10 on the future forecast meter. Future's bright for the Ducks. I mean, this is a team that I very well think has got the talent to make the college football playoff in 2023. Just a matter of whether or not they can get it done in those close Pac-12 games. Pac-12 is a competitive conference, and really there are 5 or 6 teams that could win the conference this season once again. I'd say there's 2 or 3 at the top that I'm favoring the most, but the Pac-12 is very much a wide open conference as we look forward to 2023. And that's it. Let's look at the schedule as we look forward to 2023. You got Portland State in week 1, which is an easy matchup to start out the season, then a road trip to Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech is a team where I could see them being a Big 12 contender. I mean, they could be a solid team next season. They were 8-5 in 2022. Step in the right direction for them. I mean, that's a team that has been very poor in most of the past decade or so. And so for Texas Tech, keep an eye on them. That's a road trip in week 2. Do not want to be sleepwalking into that matchup. That one could be a tough one. Then you got Hawaii coming to town, Colorado after that, road trip to Stanford, and then your bye week, and then you go to Washington, which is a huge game as well. I mean, Washington, I do think, will be in the top 3 or 4 of the conference. I like them a lot as well. They're going to have a solid offense, especially. Washington State at home, then after that, then a road trip to Utah, also a huge game there. Cal at home, USC at home, and then Arizona State on the road, and then Oregon State to finish out the season at home. So, I mean, your biggest games aren't really in consecutive order. You got Washington there in mid-October. That's a huge one. Utah on the road's big as well. And then, of course, USC, as far as conference games are concerned, are probably your biggest ones, and you can't sleep on Oregon State either. But looking at September, so you got Portland State in week 1, easy win. Texas Tech in week 2, I'm going to favor the Ducks there. But that is an interesting matchup. I mean, Texas Tech, another interesting storyline to consider here is that Texas Tech's starting quarterback could be Tyler Shuck. It more than likely will be. And yeah, Tyler Shuck was with Oregon at one point, and so he's going to be facing his former team there. That's a dangerous game. You do not want to sleep on that matchup. I could see Texas Tech once again being 7-9 win team, I'd say, in 2023. But I'm going to favor the Ducks there. Oregon's definitely the more talented team, but Texas Tech is very dangerous. Hawaii and Colorado, 2 easy wins there. Colorado, I'm not buying the hype with them. I do think they're going to be a pretty poor team in 2023. Easy win there. You're 4-0 heading into the Stanford matchup. You beat them pretty easily. And now Washington on the road. This is a game that is very much winnable. I mean, every game on your schedule is winnable, but the Huskies on the road, I like Washington a lot. I mean, this is an offense that is returning a lot of their key players. Michael Penix had a great season in 2022. He could be a Heisman contender and very well should be in 2023. Jalen McMillan, that's going to be a solid offense, a solid team there. I ain't going on the road. I'm going to favor the Huskies there to win that one. Washington State, you come back and beat them in a close one. Then Utah on the road. I'm going to favor the Utes there as well. I mean, you beat Utah last season. And, I mean, Utah is a team that still got Cam Rising coming back. I mean, this is a Utah team that I had high expectations for in 2022, and they just had a couple of disappointing losses. But, I mean, the Utes, I don't know what to expect out of them in 2023, but I do expect them to be in that, you could say, 9 to 10 win range. Tough loss there as well. So you're 6-2 heading into November. You got a huge game against Cal at home to rebound, and I think you do that. And then you got USC at home. Now, USC is a team where I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the college football playoff. I mean, that's the most talented team, I would say, in the Pac-12. If you look at Caleb Williams, that offense is going to be they're going to be dominant, and they're going to be tough to beat. And defensively, that was the main issue for USC in 2022. If they can get that defense improved, which I do expect they do, they've got a lot of great transfers going in there. Recruiting's been good. I do think USC improves defensively. That's going to be a solid team there, and I think Oregon does knock off USC at home. And I think that's my one loss projected for USC, in fact, is coming at home, or for Oregon at home against them. So Arizona State then on the road. Arizona, not really expecting much out of them. Easy win. And then Oregon State at home. I do think the Beavers could be a decent team, but I do think you get revenge on last season. I mean, that was just a disappointing loss there to finish out the regular season. Oregon State having to come back huge to win that one. But you beat Oregon State this time around. You're 10-2 to finish out the regular season. Pac-12 is just a messy conference once again. I mean, it's a team that's got many solid teams. It's not a bad conference at all, but you just got several teams at the top. It is pretty similar to the Big 12. You could consider it like that. The Big 12 doesn't have a super dominant team at the top, but several good teams. And the Pac-12 is the same way, and I expect it to be the same as we look forward to 2023. But for all we know, Oregon definitely could be the team. I mean, every game is winnable here. If they can have a couple breaks and maybe beat Washington and maybe even Utah, this team 12-0 heading into the Pac-12 title game, very much within reason for them to get to the college football playoff. And even for Oregon, I feel like if they take one loss, it's okay. I mean, if you take one loss and win the Pac-12 title game, I mean, the way that college football is looking and how it was last season, a one-loss Pac-12 team would have been in the college football playoff in USC. But we'll see what happens. I've got the team projected for a 12-0 ceiling and a 9-3 floor. This is your range where we can see the ceiling and the floor of each team. I've got Oregon at 10-2 for the prediction. I think 12-0 for the ceiling is very much reasonable. And I think, 12 wins is very much possible. More than likely, it's going to be 10-11, I do think. But 9-3 is still possible. I'd say that's the floor. 8-4 is still a possibility, even though it's pretty unlikely. And so I've got 8-4 in orange on the right there, but 9-3 is the floor. Just because I'm pretty confident this team is between 9 and 12 wins for this season. It'd be definitely a disappointment, though, if Oregon State takes 4 losses. I mean, this is as solid of a team as we've seen out of Oregon in a few years. And so for the Ducks, I mean, this is a team that very much should be a contender. Bo Nix, everything looks really good for the Ducks. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on Oregon. Is this team going to be a big contender in 2023? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.